Welcome back, CSC 230, Fall 2021, to part 2 of our GORM setup. And I'm going to go right from the beginning, even though we set up things in part 1. I'm just going to go here and make a new tab and go back into GourmIDE again. And if you can't find GourmIDE, just search GourmIDE. That's all you got to do is just search it. It should be the first thing that comes up. And make sure it's GourmIDE. Don't try to go to your old URL, anything like that. You're going to go here and you're going to sign in. And let me just make sure that I could sign in again with that new account that I made. And I was able to log into my dashboard. It didn't ask me anything about having a school ID or anything like that, so that's good. And here's my container that I made last time, and it's not running, so I just have to run it. So I'm just going to go down here and hit the run button. And here's my running container, the CSC 230 W1. And if you remember, what I did last time was went into preferences, went to mode, editor mode, make sure we're working with Emmet because we're going to use Emmet for shortcuts. And I think that's all we have to do now. You could change colors and other things in here, but that's the main thing that I want to make sure we do here. So I'm just going to close out of that. And the other thing we had to do was go to project, running URL and port. We did this last time, and that's where we set up this URL. We used our username, and then it adds that .run-us-west2.gorm or whatever. We set that up, and we also set it up with port 9090, which is the default web server that's running. So we have to do that so we don't have to actually start a web server. And the most important thing we had to do here was check this little button that said show preview button on the toolbar. So I'm going to cancel out of here. And what I'll do here is I'll just click on this and see what it does. And that just goes right to my directory. Now it doesn't go into this yet. It's going to just my URL. So it's going into the URL. Now you can add this CSC 230W1 at the end of your URL, or you could just click here. And that's what I'll do. And you can see that's what it did. And just to give you an idea of directories, there's my URL, and it's saying /CSC230W1. That means it's going into that directory. It's a folder or directory, and it's going to the home page that's in there, which happens to be index.html, and there it is. And this is showing up in a new tab, and I'm going to leave this open right now. So that's what that button does. It previews it in a new tab, so that's very helpful. Now we didn't even open up anything yet, but let's open up our index page. There's a README file here. You could just let that there for now. I'm going to open up index.html. Just double click on this. It should open up here. Now if this is bigger or smaller, you could just do Command plus or Command minus or Control plus, Control minus. I'm on a Mac, so if I want to make things smaller, I can make it smaller, or I'll make it bigger with Command plus, or like I said on Windows, use Control plus or minus to do that, to zoom in on your text. And that's the file right now. Now when you see an X here, that means it's in a saved state. The minute you change something, you're going to get an asterisk. That means it's not going to be saved. That means you always have to save it before it updates. So for example, if I just put here hello Gorm with a capital G and an IDE, if I just made a little change like that, and it says hello GourmIDE. If I went here and I refresh the page, nothing changes because I didn't save it, because there's an asterisk here. But now if I save it by just doing Control S, Command S on a Mac, or just going File Save, you could just do that. The asterisk will turn into an X and it'll be saved now. Now if I go back here and I refresh it, I have to refresh it. It reloads the page. Now it's saying hello GourmIDE. So that's just being aware of how these files save. Now we're going to make a couple changes here. Just very little things, because our intent here is just to make sure that we can share our workspace. That's really the idea. So we're just going to make a couple little changes here. Now this is linked to a style sheet. We're not even going to use that right now. So I'll just let that alone. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go after this line 4 in the code that says link rel. That's the link to the style.css style sheet. We'll talk about that later. Let me just hit return. And what I'm going to do here is just put in a title. And what is the title? The title is what's showing up here in the tab. Now, right now, it's just showing that. It's just showing my URL. But we can put a title in there. So I'm going to go back and put in a title. So we're going to use Emmet. Now, what Emmet does, you don't have to do this. You don't have to type out title. And now there are little shortcuts you could use. You could do that and then put something in there, and you can see it auto completes it. But here's another way to do that, is if you just hit title just type title and hit your tab key. It makes opening and closing title tags. Now remember, this is the title element, and there are opening and closing title tags. That's some terminology that we'll talk about. So opening and closing tags, one element. So in the title element, we're just going to put CSC 230. Now you could use capital letters in here, W1, and I'm just going to put home page. So I know it's a home page right now, and that's just a title. Now, again, there's an asterisk here, so if I save it and it turns back into an X, and I go here and I refresh it, you could see what happened. Well, nothing happened on the page, but this tab changed. That's the title. That's the only thing we changed. It now says CSE 230W1 homepage. So that was the title element that we put in there, and that's in the head tag. So it's not a visual thing on the page. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of these 3 lines right here. That it's just a div element, and it just has a hello in there. And we're just going to put a paragraph. Actually, we're going to put an H1 in a paragraph. So let's just get rid of that. And this is just little stuff we're going to do just to do something to this. And what I'll do here is I'll use Emmet once again, and I'll type in H1, which is the largest heading, and I'll just hit my tab key. And it should make your opening and closing H1 tags, which is the H1 element, which is the largest heading element. And I'm just going to put homepage for CSC 230 W1, and I'll just leave it at that. And then after this, I'll make another one, and notice it's at that same level within the body element, and I'll just put P, and I'll hit tab, and it's making an opening and closing P tag, which is a paragraph element. And in here, I'll just put fall 2021, and I'll just put my name. And you could put your name, so don't put my name there, put your name. This is where you would put your name, and that's all I'm going to do right there. So I'm just putting a heading, I'm putting a paragraph, just so you see the difference between that. And again, I have to save this. Right now it's not saved, so I'll do Control S or Command S on a Mac, and I'll save that. And now when I go back to this tab's still open. I'll hit refresh, and now it says homepage for CSC 230W1. It says fall 2021, Richard Homa. And that way I'll know that you did this. Now, again, don't use my name, use your name. Now, remember, at any point you could close this tab, because you could always just go to preview and open it up again. And again, it's going to the main URL. And if you go in 230W1, it's going to the index page. And that means over here, when it's going to CSC 230W1 here, it's going to the first index page. Now, if this page was not called index, it would not get there. It would not find it. It has to be called index.html. If I rename this and call it index2, it would not see it automatically. I'd have to type in that name to do that. I'm not going to mess with that right now. We'll talk more about directories and file names and things like that as we create directories. But we're in the main directory. We could create subdirectories. We could create like site 1, site 2. We could put different folders inside of here, and every one can have an index page. But index is meant to be the main first page that it defaults to. So that's why when we click on CSC 230W1, we don't have to have index.html listed here. You can, but it's the same page. So it just defaults it. So it knows if you have index.html in there, it just knows that that's going to be the page it's going to look for automatically. So it's kind of like the default title page called index.html. I mean, some of you know that, but I just want to point that out. And again, when I go in here, I think I have everything saved. That's all I want to do. We're going to do lots more, but for this is all I want to do. 2 lines and a title. And we don't have to do anything with style.css. We're not using it right now because we're not referencing anything right now in our style sheet. If I open up style.css, I'll just open it up. It's targeting the title class. Now, I'm not using a title class anymore because I deleted it. Now, if I wanted to change this to title, I could. And now our H1 is already bold, and it may be pretty big anyway, so I'm not even going to mess with that. But even if I did this, even if I said, okay, the P, I'm going to target the P and make it font weight bold, font size 30 pix, and I'll save that. I'll just show you how this works, and then I'll delete that then. Then if I go to here, because this is linking to that style sheet, it's going to say, okay, P, you have to be bold. So let me go back here and just refresh it. And you see what it did. It made it bold. It targeted that P tag or that P element, and it made it bold and it made it 30 pixels. Now, I don't want to do that. So how do I get rid of it here? Well, I just have to go back to my style.css, and I'll just put it back to what it was. Title, which refers to nothing, because there's nothing in my HTML page right now that has a class of title. So I'll just make sure I save that. And notice I don't have to save the index page because I didn't make a change to the index page. The index page is just linking to that style sheet, which we'll talk about, but if I refresh it, now it's back to the way it was. So that's all you have to do. You don't have to change that stuff. I'm just showing you that right now. But what I really want you to do, and I'm going to close this up, and you could close this up too, as long as it looks like this, homepage for CSC 230 W1 Fall 2021, and your name, as long as it looks like that, what you can do is you could close this up, and you could close up this little thing here, and you're going to go to this area that says share this project. Where you're going to go is share by link. So you can open up share by link, and a couple things you're going to do here. Make sure the shared scope says anyone. And then also make sure the permission on invitation is read and write. Make sure it's the middle one here so that if I go in there, I can make changes. It doesn't mean I'm always going to do that, but at least I have the ability to make changes. So change that to read and write, and change this to anyone. And they don't have a save here, so just when you close it up, that's what it's going to be. So it's shared scope anyone, permission on invitation, read write, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the workspace sharing link, and you could just copy it. I mean, you could highlight and copy it, or you could just copy it. That copies it, and it says copied, and you're going to share that with me. Now, how are you going to do that? Well, you're going to go back to MyWarren, and I'm going to go in as student view, and your student view should look something like this. Now, I didn't go over the other assignments yet. We're doing ex1 right now. Now, if I go to ex1, what you're going to do to turn this in is click on this link for ex1, and there's some instructions here. It says see the 2 videos. This is the second video that you're watching right now. You're just going to go to add a comment, and just click on add a comment. And before you paste it, I want you to insert a link. So go to this little link thing here, and then just paste it in here. Paste the URL in there, and make sure you do this. It'll make me very angry if you don't. Make sure you say open link in new window. That's actually, it's targeting blank, which means a new window. So that way when I click on it, it won't take me out of MyWarren and change MyWarren. It's a lot better if you do this. So even though this seems like a little detail, please do this. So paste the link here, and it'll say the same text, so you don't have to change that. And just make sure it opens link in new window and hit save, and then hit save again. And then when I see this, I could go in here and I know that's yours. And actually what you might want to do, I'll even go back in here and I'll edit this. What you might want to do is right after this is just put your username. Like mine was Homa CJMY. At least that's what I used for this example that I was doing. If you remember, it was Homa CJMY. So I used that for example. So whatever yours is, when you go in here, just put that there just so I know that's you, because sometimes I might just see a URL. So do that. So 2 things I want you to do. Paste your shared link in there as a link, and then just as text, just put your username. And you could just put username or something like that. That's all you have to do. If you didn't do that, that's okay, but it just helps me remember you. Because then what I'll do is I'll copy and paste all these in one document, so I'll always remember where they're at. I won't have to go through coursework to do that. So save that, and then when I go to look at your assignment, I'll be able to click on here and it'll take me right to your account. It'll open up your workspace. See, it's opening the container. I'm actually not going to do that right now because I already have it open. But I can open up your container and go in and look at it. And if I have to make changes or if I have to make any comments or anything, I could get into it. Or if you have any problems, I can help you fix any problems. You know, you could Zoom with me and I could go into your thing and check it out. But that's all you have to do for your first assignment. Once you do that, you're good. So you just have to paste in your shared workspace. Now that's this thing here. Now to get out of this area after you did anyone, read, write, and you copied this workspace sharing link, if you just go back to the project here, that'll take you back to your regular area. So you could always get back there. And then once you're done here, you can close up your container. Now you could stay logged in. There's nothing, you don't always have to sign out. You could close your container first. I always like closing the container first, and you could hit yes, and it'll take a couple seconds and it'll go away. And again, what's kind of weird is it shows both of your dashboard pages again, because it shows it a second time here, which I usually close one of those up. So you can always go back here and rerun it, and you could close this thing up. This is just your home page open up in a new tab with a server running. And I'll just close that. Now, if you ever need to run it again, you could go here. You could stay signed in, or you could sign out. And I'll just sign out right now. And that's it. Now I'm signed out. So that's all you have to do for ex1. There'll be instructions posted under Documents and Resources for handouts. But again, it's very simple, but I just want to make sure that everybody's able to get into GourmIDE, set it up, make a couple minor changes to your preferences and setup so that it's very easy to share files so we can start digging into more content. So that's ex1 for CSC 230 Fall 2021.